Are you ready?
Too late.
We're live.
We're already live.
We are live. Welcome, everybody, to Chartwell Escrow's market data and forecasting in today's real estate market. My name is Vince Foley. I'm the president of Chartwell Escrow. And with me today is Marcus Skenderian of the Skenderian Group and Compass Real Estate, as well as Zack Tenney. Zack is our vice president of sales at Chartwell Escrow, and so pleased to have everybody on. This is our second live broadcast, and it's a great discussion. We talk a little bit about today's headlines. We talk a little bit about some forecasting and look in our crystal ball, and we also talk about some market research reports and what we are doing to provide those to the real estate professionals as well as consumers to help them understand today's real estate market. So as we jump into this, I want to welcome Marcus Skenderian, a friend and also an esteemed colleague. I want to read a little bit about Marcus, and then I'll let him tell you about himself. Marcus has established himself as the choice for real estate in coastal Orange County. Marcus has represented over 460 clients in the last 15 years and is a licensed California real estate broker. His winning approach comes from years of experience and firsthand with local markets. He's a very successful local guy. He'll tell you all about his roots in Laguna Beach, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that. So Marcus, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself as we get started here?
All right. Thanks, Vince. And thanks for inviting me to join you guys. Feel honored. And what a treat it is to get to do this. Whether it's just the three of us or there's other people watching as well, who knows? But some of that's true. It sounds kind of flowery as you described it, but reality is born and raised here in Laguna. Actually not born, it's just easier to say it that way. I got here when I was about 9 months old. I've been living in Laguna Beach for better part of 45 of the years I've been alive. And my family is ingrained here in the community. My mom was a real estate broker here in town for 40 plus years. My dad's a pretty well-respected and well-known architect here in town and has been practicing in Laguna for 55 years or so. And I got into residential real estate in 2005, and I joined my mom and partnered with her for a couple of years, and then branched off as she went into retirement, and I went off on my own. But my background before that is in commercial real estate, spent a few years doing that, and then transitioned into commercial construction management, residential construction as well. I had my general contractor's license for a while. So I have a pretty extensive background in real estate, homes, architecture, construction, and I feel like I finally found out what I want to be when I grow up, when I joined real estate, 50. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Well, yeah, thanks, Marcus. I know you've got a great resume. A great person to talk about what's happening in today's market. So why don't we jump right in? I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go over what today's agenda is, right? Let me share here, make sure that everybody can see that. All right, so here we go. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. I want to talk about what we're going to do today. It's always nice to have a set of goals of what we want to accomplish. First thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about and we're going to analyze current headlines and consumer sentiment. Next, we're going to provide all of you with useful data and marketing assets to help inform you and your clients on the current and coming real estate market. And last but not least, we're going to give you access to current and historical market statistics. And that's helpful for anybody, whether you're a real estate professional, you're a buyer, you're a seller, or you're an investor, or you want to get into the real estate business. These are some things that you may want to take a look at. So let's jump right in. Marcus, this is a screenshot that I pulled just about 3 days ago or 4 days ago. And what I'm finding is that I did a little research. Since June 1st, almost all the real estate news that I've been consuming and seeing out there is positive. There's 6 stories highlighted on the CNBC website here. 4 of those stories are positive stories. Does this resemble, replicate, mimic what you are seeing and feeling out there as a real estate professional?
It's true. Yeah, for the most part, Vince, it has been surprising. Even before that, mid-May, I started feeling this a resurgence in the real estate market and some positive news. And quite frankly, middle of March, when all this stuff came down, I'm shocked that 4 or 5 months later, wherever we are today, that we're having such good positive news in real estate. So absolutely, I'm feeling the same thing. It's weird because I would never have expected it.
Yeah, it feels like, the middle of March when we started going into shelter in place with the pandemic, it felt like the outlook was very bleak. That bleakness for us on the settlement service side seemed to last about 30 days. And all of a sudden, the sentiment completely turned around. And, right around, end of April, beginning of May, it just seemed like the switch turned of how important home ownership was, and people really searching for to get into a home if they hadn't gotten into one, or to change the type of home that they were in.
Yeah, no question. And we're seeing right now a lot of people from out of the area. We have clients from Dallas, from Las Vegas, from Chicago, from Arizona. It feels like there's a lot more people who are wherever they are wanting to get away from there. And fortunately, we happen to be in Southern California, where a lot of people want to be. So we're feeling that for sure.
Want to talk about some key points here, and then I'll talk after the key points. I want to read something to you that I recorded today when watching CNBC this morning from Diana Olick, who's their real estate analyst on CNBC. So first of all, a couple key points. According to the National Association of Realtors, existing home sales for Q3, which is what we're in right now, July, August, September, are projected at 4.9 million nationally versus 5.4 million in the last quarter of last year at the same time, so Q3 of 2019. It sure feels like we're ahead of that pace to me and what we're seeing. What does it feel like to you? Does it feel like Q3 is going to be the same, better, or a little bit less because of scarcity, in your crystal ball opinion?
Well, I mean, I look at some of the escrows that occurred back March, April, early May, and there weren't as many homes going into escrow at that time. I think people were still in sort of this paralyzation mode and not quite sure how to respond to it. So it doesn't surprise me that Q3 numbers would be off from last year, especially when we're relating it to today's snapshot in time, because today, starting say 3-4 weeks ago, activity has been very positive. But prior to that, in Q2, those escrows, we were way down on escrows. So I don't think you're going to see the positivity that we're feeling today until we really get in towards the end of Q3 and then into Q4. So I'd be curious to see where those things project, because I do think, May, April, March closings were down year to year. June, we're very close. We're very on par to what we were last year. And I would imagine closings from July, which obviously we haven't seen yet, and then August will be much more than we were last year. So that's where I'll be curious to see how this, really transitions into these numbers that you're talking about.
So our buying season has shifted more towards what would be typically the end of buying season, right? Another quote here from the director of economic research at Realtor.com: home buyers are back in full force as the real estate market heats up. That was just from 2 days ago.
Agree. I talked with an agent last night about a home that I had listed a couple of years ago that I couldn't get anybody to look at, and she's got 4 offers on it in a week, and it's basically the same price as it was. So it's interesting. Wow. There are definitely buyers in the market today.
Yeah. I'm going to go into a graph in the next slide here, but you'll see this quote here from Realtor.com that they've created what they call a recovery index. And it says that the West continues to lead the recovery overall versus and above the pre-COVID benchmark. So if we look at this graph here, the orange line represents the sales, the index for the western part of the United States. And if you look at where we are now, that 100 benchmark, we are above that for both the West and the Northeast. Interesting, because those two places seem to be the areas that have gotten hit hardest prior to what the recent is in Texas and Florida. But they have been in the pandemic and got hit the hardest earliest, and now they're leading the recovery in real estate.
That looks good, Vince. That looks good.
One of the things that we look at here, and we're going to talk about the John Burns forecast, which I think will be a great asset to everybody on the call, everybody on the broadcast here. They do what's called a leading indicator by looking at the Google search index. So what that tells us, and this is the Los Angeles division, which is the metro, which is inclusive of Orange County in the way that they report. This tells us where people are searching in Google for existing home sales. And what they're showing is that compared to a year ago, as recently as 7/4, their last reporting, the search for existing homes is 37% higher than it was a year ago at this time. That's 12 consecutive weeks they're showing of robust search activity for resales, not new homes, but actually existing homes for sale. Do you find that many of your clients have already searched, are looking at Google? Do you see that you're getting a lot of that feedback when they come to you to either buy or to sell their property?
Without question. Yeah. I think there are more people locked up at home today across the country, across the world, with, I don't want to say nothing to do, but they have great opportunity to be on their computer, to be looking at what's out there and wishing they were somewhere else than where they're sitting at that time. So it doesn't surprise me, but it's pretty compelling. And I've been reading stats like this as well, that online searches have been far greater than they've ever been in our past. And we're definitely seeing that. And the people I'm talking to have done their homework, and they are very educated and informed about the homes that they're looking at. So absolutely.
Is there a client that you have today or that you've had recently in the past that have said, I haven't looked at anything online. I don't know anything about my home's value. I don't have a Zestimate. I don't have any idea of what the market's doing? Or is almost every one of them coming to you saying, this is what I've looked at, and what is your take on it as a professional?
They've all looked at it in good ways and bad ways, quite honestly. Yeah. I usually hear Zillow. Oh, I've heard, and it usually happens to be on a value that might be off what the listing price is. And but one way or another, they come armed and pretty prepared for negotiating or that process. They've been more educated now than ever.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody out there these days that doesn't have access to real estate information online. And while that isn't always a great thing, it does maybe do a little of the legwork, prepares them a little bit, right?
Sure.
The values may not be right. The second part of our talk today is about forecasting. There are a lot of analysts out there. Everybody can analyze the data in hindsight, right? We can always look at what the comparable sales are, or, what last year's doing versus what this year's doing. But what's really the key to the whole thing is what is the market going to do, right? And who do we trust, and how do we look at that information? What can you show home buyers and sellers to help them make a difference in their decision making? What I'm excited to talk about, and for you to give us some insight on, because you're the boots on the ground professional out there. John Burns real estate forecasting is something that you have access to. Everybody on this broadcast has access to. Happy to share any information with them from John Burns, who happens to be a local guy, but does national real estate forecasting, has been in the business of doing forecasting for many, many years, has a stable of economists in his company, over 20 of them, that analyze every little minute detail of the economy and then tie it back to real estate, both nationally and locally. We happen to have the benefit of not only having his information, but allowing us to be able to use that information in some of your marketing, some of your sharing with what you're doing with your clients. And I want to take you through some of these, especially for Orange County. We're going to focus on Orange County today. Our last broadcast was, we focused a lot on LA County, but we're going to talk more about Orange County today. And I want to get your take on this very first slide, which John Burns says, and a couple things here, and I want to point out some of the important points, is that the current phase of the housing cycle in Orange County happens to be what he calls falling, which means that we're reaching a point where we're getting the levels of the height of what the values are. That's how I interpret it. Interestingly enough, what he's saying is that today's interest rates, that he believes that the market is 3% on average underpriced, versus at 5% interest rates, the market would be 12% overpriced. What do you feel about the overall pricing of the market?
Well, I mean, it's weird because it feels like this whole thing, contrary to what we would have expected, where in March, I was feeling like our prices are going to be going down. People who are selling are going to have to cut prices. And I think what's happened has been the opposite. There's been this surge of people. And again, we're somewhat in this bubble where it's unusual. People want to come to Orange County more. So that, given with the combination that, our inventory is much lower this year than it was last year. I think at the end of June this year, we had 190 homes for sale in Laguna. In end of June 2019, we had 269 homes on the market. So that's a huge difference in inventory levels. So naturally, based on supply and demand, that low inventory would perpetuate a higher sales price. Given the fact that now you've got the country who's now going, where can we go to get some space, to get some breathing room? Let's go to Orange County or some of the other areas in the country that we're fortunate enough to get to be here to receive those people. I don't want to say it's a false sense of what's really happening, but it's not a natural course of what's going on. If you look historically at what our market has been doing, we've been in an upwards trajectory for almost over 10 years now, and that's beyond where you typically go. I mean, typically these cycles run 6, 7, 8 years, and our interest rates continue to stay really low. I think people have been super careful to protect those so that they keep this housing market healthy, so that we can continue to sell homes and serve the economy. So it's interesting. Median prices in Laguna Beach are off about 100,000 from where they were last year this time, same quarter. So I think they were like 2.5 last year, 2.495 if I'm not mistaken, and then this year, end of quarter number 2, I think we're at 2.397. So about $100,000 off of where we were last year. So
wow,
it's interesting.
That's surprising. On this slide, they talk about months of supply. We'll get into it on other slides, but the Burns forecast is saying that the supply is relatively excellent. I don't know if I would tend to agree with that, because a year ago there were 3.7 months of supply. Today there's 2.4 months of supply. This is through June. It seems to me like that, that is not a better or an excellent stat. But again, here's housing supply, right? A year ago, 619. That's way over here on this graph. There were just under 10,000 active listings for Orange County. These are existing resales. This is not new home sales, new home listings. If you look today, that number looks like it's right around 6,500. Pretty close. Year-over-year change of minus 34% through the end of the week of 6/28/20. So just a few weeks ago. Down 34% in housing supply in what I thought last year was already a really constrained housing market.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because a lot of this stuff has happened during this 4-month period that we've been in COVID. So there's been this, I feel like what happened was COVID hits March 12th, 13th, whenever it hits, everybody kind of locks up, buyers and sellers. There's pent up sellers from the holiday season who are waiting for the spring season to put their homes on the market. There are pent up buyers who are sitting there waiting for new homes to come on the market. March hits, those homes aren't hitting the market. So the homes that are on the market, there are some high price sales. People start thinking, wow, the market's taken off. maybe I should put my house on the market. Who would have thought this market is good during this time? Let me put my home on the market. They put their home on the market. They're ambitious, so some people set their prices a little high. I think that that is what gives you this the supply a little bit further or a little more distance in terms of we have so many high-priced homes above $5 million in Laguna Beach that the days on market, the supply is further than you would expect. But when you look at what's really selling on a daily basis, let's say the homes under 1.5 or under 2 million, the days on market over the past month or so have reduced from what was about 110 days on the market. Now we're at 95 days. And when you go down to even a lower price point, the days on market has been reduced in the past 2 to 3 weeks from 80 days on the market down to 60 days on the market. But that's a small segment of our market.
Yeah.
So I think that supply that you're referring to is largely dictated by those higher priced homes that do definitely take a lot longer to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say those probably skew it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Again, you just touched on median list price. This is for all of Orange County. This is through July 8th, so it's pretty recent, right? We're looking at a 7% year over year change for the week ending 6/28/20 from a year ago at that time. So look at the average, the median list price for Orange County is now above $880,000. And a year ago, it looks like somewhere around $820,000 to $830,000. So you just touched on it, right? It just seems like, the prices aren't falling, but they're rising since COVID specifically, if you look at these weeks here in the gray.
No question. That makes sense based on what we're experiencing.
Yep. This is one of the last slides or close to the last slides, but this is an important indicator. This goes back to 2000. This is one of the first things that we're talking about in the forecasting. So, this requires all of your not only historical expertise, but maybe a little bit of guesswork and knowledge of prediction and what you're seeing out there. So the John Burns Home Value Index basically gives the values of homes indexed for all of Orange County. In 2000, the index was right around, historically, I believe that number is right around 0, just less than 0. So the prices were indexed to that number right there. Today, that number has risen. This is the green here, to the highest it's been since 2000. So you were right. You touched on that we have been in an upward trend. Look at all these years that we were kind of flat in the 2000. It looks like Orange County didn't take too much of a hit during the Great Recession or the Great Depression of the 2008 meltdown. But look at that upward trend of what we're looking at right now and currently in that green bar. What I want to get your take on is the prediction for the next year, which is 2021 and 2022. He's talking about a 6% decrease is what he's predicting in prices. Is this the year to sell?
I personally have been saying that for sure, but I've been saying it for a couple of years, quite honestly, based on what I had mentioned before and that upward trajectory that you just referenced. I feel like it's logical to think at some point these things are going to correct a bit. I think we've been held up by these lower interest rates and people continue to buy, and your purchase power has been greatly improved by that. So people are continuing to do it. But at some point, I think the interest rates are going to have to go up a little bit. Inflation, now we've got, and again, it may be false, it may be real. It is obviously real during this time, but how long it is in terms of our unemployment numbers and things like that, we'll see. But I gotta believe at some point, for the overall long-term health of the market, I think it's got to correct a bit and it's going to go down. Now, percentage points and all that stuff, I really don't know, but it just feels like a natural course of correction is going to take place. And what I've said is you're going to have this time towards the end of this year, probably midway through 2021, once the election's over and we settle into who our next president is and how that all shakes out, will largely dictate how that really transfers to our market numbers.
You know, I want to read something to you because you said the U word, the unemployment word, right? And you know, Orange County is seeing higher unemployment rates, of course, because of the COVID pandemic. But I want to read. I videoed this and then I took it verbatim from a promotional spot on CNBC this morning from the real estate analyst at CNBC, Diana Olick. She said this just today. Quote, "We are in a mortgage crisis. People are unable to pay their home loans because they've lost their jobs. Overnight, more than 4 million homeowners were asking for a mortgage bailout. The other story," she goes on to say, "of the pandemic is the surprising housing demand. People want a backyard. They want a home fitness center. They want high-tech homes where they can homeschool and work from home. The home is the most important thing right now." How do those two things couple each other? How does the mortgage crisis, the pending mortgage crisis, and I was just speaking with an old colleague of mine, and that's his space, the default world. He tells me that there's a shadow inventory of defaulted borrowers that were greater than 2008. But are you seeing any of that in Orange County? Is Orange County a bubble? Will it continue to be a bubble because the lack of density that we have? Which makes this forecast of housing prices going down next year and then flat and then rising again in 23 on this slide in 2023. Does that blow this out of the water? Do those intangibles matter?
Yeah, I do think they matter. However, I think we are, you know, we live in a small world here in Orange County in Southern California, for sure. And there's a lot of other things going on outside of our world that unfortunately, or fortunately for us, haven't hit us yet. Now, we're hoping they don't hit us, but I gotta believe at some point this is gonna trickle down. The other side of that is there's still people who are succeeding, who are doing really well in other parts of the area. And like it or not, we're not getting any bigger here. There's not more land being created here and more opportunity, but there are more and more people who still want to come here. So I do think we have an unfair advantage over most other markets in that people still want to be here. We have a very limited resource. And so I think we have a little bit distorted view of what middle America is seeing. And we haven't seen that yet here. I would go back to the comments seeing is this great appreciation for home, you know, and I don't mean appreciation of value. I mean true appreciation of what a home gives people. And I think you've seen more people talk about those things, of where they can feel good about their spaces, where they can separate from their family and still exist in the same house. I've had more people ask about the opportunity to put a pool in or looking for homes with pools, things like that. So that's interesting because I absolutely am experiencing that sort of desire as well with a lot of our buyers.
Yep. Yeah. It just seems like it's the fervor to have wide open space, which this market, specifically Orange County, offers, may be the anomaly as we go into next year and into this year. We don't know, right? These are just predictions. These are just a quick couple up arrows, down arrows of what the resale market conditions are like in Orange County. I'll just cover them very briefly. We've already talked about months of supply. We've already talked about listing. Days on the market, you touched on, look, a year compared to a year ago, we're up, but only 8 days, right? Last year at this time, it was 40 days on average on the market. Right now, it's 48 days, right? That's an 8 point swing upwards. That's 20%, but the 20% seems like a skewed number because it's only 8 days. Historical average is 47 days. Things just don't stay on the market very often in Orange County. What I want to ask about, and we talked a little bit about this a couple days ago, was sold above list price. This is interesting. A year ago, 34% of the market was selling above list price. Currently, it's 21%. Does that mean that things are just priced better? That people just I don't know what your sense take on that, because it is a big, 13 points is a big number difference for homes that sell above list price and homes that sell under list price.
Wow, that's those are surprising numbers to me, quite honestly. I would have thought we'd have more above list price today. Now, the other side of that is, and forgive me because I'm focusing a lot on Laguna Beach and Orange County, and I don't know what our audience is, but what I'm seeing is more homes selling above list price today than last year, for sure, in our market, our micro market, if you want to call it that. I would imagine that this encompasses a lot of the more inland planned developments, things like that. And my guess is that those areas are being impacted a little bit more than coastal communities on Orange County. My personal experience, I think I mentioned just a little bit ago about this home that I had listed a couple of years ago, and I couldn't get anybody to look at it. Well, I have another one in a very similar situation right now that we had on the market 2 years ago, and I couldn't get anybody to look at it. I really couldn't. And now we listed it. I had 3 offers on it in the first week. We had 10 showings in one day, and it did fall out of escrow from our first buyer, but the second buyer stepped up and paid above asking price as well. So I don't know. Those are a little different than I would have expected.
Yeah, that one confused me as well too, because it just doesn't feel like that. So I wanted to show just 2 quick slides. We've been talking a lot about the John Burns data right here. This is just the snapshot of what he shows the conditions are. And the reason I'm showing this slide and this slide is because this is a 73-page report. We didn't even scratch the surface of most of it. This is available to anybody who would like it. Please let me know. You can reach out to info@Chartwell Escrow if you'd like a copy of this. Happy to send it out to you. If you do, if you're going to use it in your marketing, or if you're going to use it for anything other than just information, please make sure you reference the source. Please also don't post any of the graphs on any social media. They kind of frown on that. But if you need it professionally, or if you are a buyer or seller and want a little bit more information about some minutia in the economy, nationally, boiling it all the way down to your local market, I'm happy to send you a copy of this report. Marcus, I want to just close up with you before we get to the Altos research reports. And Zack, I put this slide in here over a week ago, but it seems more relevant today than it did even then, with the new lockdowns, right, that California is experiencing, and we just don't know when those are going to end. But is selling real estate virtually just going to be the thing now? I mean, this is a person, the picture is of a person, scanning the room, an empty room, with the iPhone, probably doing a virtual open house or a virtual caravan, showing a buyer, whatever it may be. What have you done to adapt? Are you convinced that this is going to change? We're going to go back to caravans, going back to open houses, or what's your sentiment?
Good question. I mean, it was the obvious thing that we all adapted to quickly, is that everything's going to be online, and we're going to go to this whole method of sales. The truth is, we've been doing this for quite a while before this all started, with FaceTime and videos and things like that. In fact, we've sold a few houses that way before. I think initially when this all happened, there was a novelty around it, that how interesting. Yeah, let's adapt to this and let's make it happen, and we'll do whatever it takes, and I'll be in one room and my assistant will be in the other room, and we'll have cameras everywhere, and we'll do it. What I found is most of the people coming through the open houses were either other realtors who are interested to find out, how do you do this thing, or they were buyers who really weren't educated on the market. It was more of a, what is in a virtual open house? Let's check it out and see how this works. So I haven't had a lot of experience with real seasoned buyers who want to buy this way. And I think the industry's done a pretty great job of adapting and adjusting to what we've been restricted to, and making it easier for us to show properties live. And I think there's no substitute for seeing a property live. And yes, absolutely. Are we going to have 3D tours? Are we going to have virtual tours and videos? For sure. And it's a great way to get people introduced to it. But I don't think anybody's going to buy a house without actually seeing it. And I think the processes that have been created by CAR, NAR, our local broker managers have made it possible for us to show it, albeit it's more restrictive and more difficult than it was, but it's a process and we've gotten used to it. And so we've been able to adapt. Where I think we miss natural, real open houses, people driving by. To go to a virtual open house takes a whole hell of a lot more work for that buyer than a traditional open house. And I think that's where we kind of miss the mark, because oftentimes you get somebody who comes in and you're selling an emotional property where you walk in and you can just feel it.
Yeah.
It's tough to feel that emotion on video, and the way a house smells, the way it feels, the way it sounds, the neighborhood, all of that stuff. It's better than nothing, no question, but it definitely isn't a substitute. And I hope we can use the combination of the virtual selling with live in-person showings as well. And I think that's probably what's going to end up happening, is a refined process around that.
Well, I'll tell you, my hats are off to you. You and your colleagues are, your small business owners, your entrepreneurs, just like the small businesses and entrepreneurs that are having to start and stop again and change their practices and do all the things that they need to do to be able to continue to do business in this environment. We can complain all we want, but it is what it is, right? We have to adapt, and we have to surrender to it and accept it. And once we do, we can find innovative ways to bring value to our clients. And so kudos to you and all of your colleagues in the real estate profession that are doing everything they can to serve their clients and to find homes for people, because there is a robust demand out there, and there will always be robust demand for home ownership. So I want to go into, Marcus, the last portion of our broadcast today, which is the Altos market reports. I know you are a subscriber to them. I want to bring in Zack Tenney to the discussion, and I want him to go through, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I want him to go through the Altos research market reports and what they can do for your clients, yourself, and how they will add to giving more information to the public about what's happening in the real estate market. So Zack, welcome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to let you start sharing yours.
All righty. Thanks for having me. I am sharing. Can you confirm you can see the Altos page I have up?
I can see it.
All righty. So thanks again, everyone, for having us today. We're glad to provide information, but the point of Altos is a free tool for anyone who needs it, so you can run reports on any market you need anytime on your own time. So I'll kind of just jump right into it. What you're looking at here is the live page for Altos research reports. I'm going to center this around Newport Beach today, just as an example. So the beautiful thing is this is a free tool for anyone who needs it, and you can actually use it to search any zip code in the country once you are on the website here. You would do that in the search bar here. Right now I have in Newport Beach, like I said, but if I wanted to, I can search Miami, Honolulu, New York, pretty much anything I want to get information on or share information on a referral basis. Also of note, what I love about the search function is you can see right here, I can search Newport Beach as an aggregate, meaning all zip codes in Newport Beach, or I can hone in on a specific zip code that's relative to the listing I have or the listing appointment I would be going on. So for this example, I'm going to use the city of Newport Beach for the most robust data, but just want to point out that you can get very granular here in order to identify the exact area you're focused on. And again, that's for everything in the country. So moving down, another great function is the ability to sort data based off houses or condo listings. So again, now I can go to the specific zip code I want to, and I can separate data based off the specific listing type. So you can see here when I click on condos, all your data is going to change to be relative to the condo and co-op market versus houses, which would be single family retail. And you can run reports for both. So I'm going to move here to what we're looking at, the market action index. So this is a very unique data point that's specific to Altos research. They basically have an algorithm that they put all these data points in from the real-time market profile, in order to assign a numerical value to the strength of a buyer's or seller's market. So if we're looking at the chart here, the number 30 would indicate a perfectly balanced market. Any number above 30 is the strength of a seller's market, and any number below 30 is the strength of a buyer's market. So in this example, we can see as of today, the market action index is at a number 31, which is a slight seller's advantage. And it even gives you a nice write-up of why here below the date and time and below the graphic itself. And again, this is a very easy graph you can use to determine the strength of your market and even compare it to last month, which you can see on the inside column here. I have a lot of agents who like this and they screenshot it or easily share it to social media, which I'll get to later in the presentation. So that would take us to the right. One of my favorite parts of Altos, the real-time market profile. You have all these data points here, and these trend lines are representing 16 weeks of data. So you're able to look at everything that's happening in a specific zip code on one nice chart for the last 4 months. You can even hover along those lines and see where the data was every Friday when they updated. Again, very useful here in that Altos Research updates their data every 7 days. So you're as up to date in a market as you could ever be. And you see, I can easily hover along here and see how, in this example, price per square foot has slowly been dropping a little in the past few weeks, or days on market, etc., all from one nice, neat chart. Again, a very useful chart that can be screenshotted for Instagram or shared directly through social media, which again, I will get to shortly. So that kind of wraps up the top page here. I'm going to scroll down to another great function. So this here is a 3-year trend graph of all the same data points. You can see I have the drop-down list for all the data points in the real-time market profile. And this one's very useful, whereas the market, this one up here is 16 weeks. This large graph is actually 3 years of data. So you're able to identify trends as they progressed year over year, which is very beneficial because obviously in the status quo, market fluctuations go up and down, but you're always able to go back and compare that to year over year trends. It even has another one of my favorite segments is market segments. If you click on market segments, it separates the data into 4 quartiles. If I go back, this is all the data aggregate. The market segments is quartiles that corresponds with this graph here at the bottom. So you could accurately hone in on the data relative to your listing. And so for example, if I had a listing in Newport Beach at $3.5 million, let's say, I can easily identify data relative to my list price by viewing the data closest to the second upper, which is average list price of 3.4665. And you have the data here, and that also would correspond with the second upper data trend line. So now we're looking in a specific city around a specific price point for data relative to our listing or listing presentation. Also of note, you can see on the 3-year graph, it easily indicates the year over year markers with these shapes. So for example, the top of the market median list price today, 5,539,188. I can quickly view a year ago at 5,618,769 and continue to go back to 3 years. Inversely, you can easily click down and drag anywhere on the graph, and you can see that that's going to zoom in the graph. Now I have just a 12-month graph I can view, either market segments or in aggregate, and change the data as it shows. So again, very useful. The way I've seen this used a lot lately is people are going in and they're going into about March, wherever March might be on here, March 13th, which was the day of shelter in place. And you can quickly view a graph specific to what's happened since we've all been stuck at home, so on and so forth. So this would lead me into the last function I want to share with you today, which is the share button. So any graph you create here, you can easily share via the share button, via a single page report, which is going to load. And as this loads, this is something, a download, a 1-page PDF. Again, you can easily screenshot it, send it in an email to a client, take it on a listing presentation. It has all the data I explained earlier, and then any graph that I created in the bottom portion of Altos is input on there as well. So very useful, concise sheet. You also, via the share button, have a full page PDF report. Now, this is different than the single page because this is a 6-page report that's very detailed to the area you're looking, and even has, you can see the first page is similar to what you've seen, but as you scroll, you have an individual page write-up for every data point we're looking at. It shows you both the aggregate and the market segments graph, and it has an entire write-up with tons of dialogue. So again, this is very helpful for you if you want to educate yourself personally, or if you like what the data is showing, you can easily download this and send it to a client or take it on a listing presentation and all that fun stuff. The last from the share function would be directly sharing stuff to Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. In this example, if I clicked Facebook, you can see here's the graph I created. It's a quick share to Facebook, and now I'm updating my clients on what I want to share. You can also easily share that real-time market profile I explained earlier to your Facebook. And these are live links, so your clients would also be able to click on and view data. And the last would be the market action index bar, which I explained. And all these, with 2 or 3 clicks, are immediately shared on your social media. So that really wraps up the main function of the live website. And again, from here, I can go to the next city I'm interested in. One last thing I wanted to point out would be on the admin side. If you reach out to your local Chartwell Escrow rep, we're able to customize and build charts for you with up to 2 data points on them. So in this example, I'm comparing days on market versus inventory for Newport Beach for the last 12 months. I mean, these can get as detailed as you want. You can do it just for condos in the past 30 days. And all sorts of stuff like that. In fact, we even have some advanced statistics that aren't available on the public site, such as new listings and listings absorbed for the market you're searching for. The last part of this I enjoy is you can export this data as a spreadsheet, and then I have people give it to their marketing teams and turn it into any type of custom bar graph that they want for a website, and you can even embed it into your website as well. Again, this is all the advanced function, and your local rep will be able to help you with that. But other than that, that is it for me on Altos research reports. The main question I get after this is, well, how do I get access? You simply email any of us at Chartwell Escrow, and we can set you up with a custom farm, meaning as many zip codes as you want for the area you farm. And every Monday, you will get an email with updated links to that farm that take you directly to the website. No login required. You can even share links to the website with your clients and everything like that. So long answer for the question to just simply reach out to us and we will set you up. But that's it today for Altos Research.
Oh, thanks, Zach. That was excellent. And that's all. I'm going to just end with my slide, thanking everybody for attending. Specifically, thanking Marcus for such great insight. Marcus, I really appreciate your time. You're a consummate professional. You know your market. You know all of Orange County. And I appreciate you sharing that knowledge with our audience. If there's any questions that anybody has, Marcus, how do they reach you?
Probably easiest is marcus@compass.com, Vince. That's probably the easiest, marcus@compass.com. My cell phone, 949-295-5758, but probably easier doing that. And I just wanted to thank you too, Vince, and your team for putting this together and asking me to be a part of it. This has been a weird time for everybody, and everybody's trying to adapt and figure out how to respond to this crisis and what to do. And you guys are kind of behind the scenes. Agents get sort of the glory and we're kind of the face of this industry, but you guys and other affiliates and lenders and title officers and all those people are the people who do a lot of the heavy lifting behind the scenes that nobody sees. I mean, there's not $1 million listing show highlighting title reps and escrow officers and lenders. It's real estate agents, and they get the glory, and you guys do a lot of the work behind the scenes that make us go. So thank you, and thanks for including me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Marcus. If anyone needs to get a hold of me, I'm at vfoley@chartwellescrow.com. And also Melissa Consul, who's our Orange County sales rep, is mconsul, CONSOLE, @chartwellescrow.com. info@chartwellescrow.com will get you to any of us, and we will be happy to share any of this information with you. I thank you all. Marcus, thanks again. Best of luck to you for the rest of the year, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. See ya.
How do I get out of this?